the first time I became aware of you was probably through Ethan Newberry through
Oh,
Ginger
Ethan's
Runner,
great.
like
Yeah,
years
I love
ago.
Ethan.
I don't know how. Maybe you were. I was following him, and you were recommended to follow as well, or maybe he was in an event you were at. But it was a long, long
Yeah, he
time
did,
ago.
and we did a couple films too. Like we
Okay,
used to, he when he lived in LA, we used to run together,
that
and
must have been it.
All right.
um, yeah. But the story of Yellow Runner, there's a little tidbits out there. That's my book actually tells like the real story. It's actually not about me. But, there, it's like there's some messaging behind it, but it did come about like right before my mom passed. My mom died when I was 17, and before she passed away, she bought me a bunch of like little presents. Then they were all yellow because she used to call me Sunshine.
Oh,
Oh,
So
cool.
the name kind of wraps into like why I run. Um, and yeah, just that story, that journey.
I
So
find that
it's
interesting. My
yeah.
father's passing was pretty much the impetus for me to start running. So it
Oh,
yeah,
really?
in kind of like in those hard moments in the early days of my running,
Mm.
yeah, I felt a lot of I don't know, like parental looking down. I don't know how you describe it, but just that,
Yeah,
like, hey, make dad proud or something like kind of thing.
I love that. That's really precious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a soccer player growing up, so my mom was a big part of that dream. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. So, but I'd run ever since I was 7. So I'd run my entire life. I loved to run. I loved to run fast, and that was kind of like my thing. But soccer was like that was my jam. Like that was the dream. So
When you say you've run since
my
7, was you mean your first race was at 7, right?
yeah. Yeah, I started racing when I was 7, just local little city races, and then and then I did, like, cross country in middle school, but all the sports in middle school are, like, introductory, it's like a 5 weeks of you can join the basketball team, and 5 weeks you can join. So I did that in middle school, and then when I was in high school, I was a sprinter, and the whole reason why I was even on track and field was just so I could be a better soccer player. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to be fast and powerful. So I had friends that did like the 800 and the 3200, and I just thought they were insane. Like why would you run that far on the track? But
Yeah.
unless there's a ball at your feet.
What position did
Uh,
you play in soccer?
I was outside left, like left mid and striker. So my nickname was Greyhound because
Oh
I could
wow.
just run up and down that sideline
That's
all
awesome.
all all 90 minutes. Yeah, super fun. So I got to play in college, and that's where I met my husband. And so running's
Cool.
always been a part of my life in one way or another.
So
Yeah,
wait, where did you go
and
to
that's the podcast.
Where'd you go to college? I'm like rapid fire here. Where was it? Where was the college?
I went to Biola University. Yeah, not my first choice. Actually, when my mom was really sick, I was on an awesome soccer club team and had schools from all over the nation sending me letters, which was really exciting.
Wow.
And then when she died, I stopped playing on that club team, and I kind of threw the dream away. And at the end of my senior year, a family friend was like, "Your mom would be devastated if she knew that you weren't even going to go to college or you wouldn't do anything." And so she took me around to some local colleges, and one of them was Biola University. And the coach came walking out, and he's like, we know who you are. We'd love for you to play. And about half the girls on the team are willing to give up part of their scholarship if you come play
Oh,
for us. And
Whoa.
yeah, it changed my life because I thought, like, who am I? And who are these girls that they give up, like, what they work so hard for? And, most kids at the end of your senior year, you already know where you're going. Scholarships are already given out. So um, it was not the school I wanted to go to. But it was like 45 minutes from my house. And yeah, so I kind of struggled a little bit, like the first few months there, just like, what am I? This is not the path I want to be in. This is not the school I want to be at. And it turned out to be exactly where I needed to be, and ended up meeting Eddie there. It was the best part. So,
Wow.
right on.
Are you still friends
yeah.
with any of your teammates from back then?
Oh yeah, I'm some of my best friends.
Wow.
I've my lifelong like best friends. None of them are runners.
That's amazing.
Like,
So
the
how do
people
you
that
talk to
know
them?
me, yeah, right. I know. I love all the ultra memes, right? Where they
Yeah.
just like, make us out to be like so crazy and unrelatable all the time. But that probably is why we are such good friends because they've known me at every season in my life. You know, I met all my college friends just a year after my mom passed away, and I was just a soccer player, and so they didn't know me as an ultra runner. In fact, when I started doing marathoning, they were like, "What are you doing? That's so weird."
Yeah. I mean, but they've
Like,
got
you're
to
not a
know.
runner, like,
They've got to follow
wow.
you on Instagram now, and they see like the
Yeah.
insanity that's going on. So
Yeah.
I feel like if you have friends that don't follow you on Instagram, it's like you see them and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And you're like, "Oh, I can't go
I can't-
into all of it.
Yeah,
Just
it's just
Right?
just go look at my feed. That's
that
everything I do."
explains it.
I was joking the other day with one of my girlfriends. Her husband is really active on Instagram. I mean, he has to be for part of his job. And something was going on between the two of them. He came home from work, and she was like, "Dude, you're running late. Like we were supposed to have dinner at this time." He's like, "Haven't you seen my day? Like I put it on Instagram." And she was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Like, no, we're not going there."
Have you not talked to my personal assistant, also known as my Instagram
Right?
account?
Yeah.
Did you not look through my stories?
Yeah. Exactly. What's wrong with it? But it's exhausting running into an old friend that doesn't do social media, and you're like, where do I start? About 10 years ago, I got into running, and then it just consumed my life. And
Yeah.
Speaking of which, your Instagram account you've been active for a while now on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
And right now, I was like,
Since the day where you just posted food.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, right.
since it was
You put
my
filters on
breakfast.
food photos back then.
Yeah.
Right? So true.
Beautify the food. Yeah. But I mean, so you're this, like you probably before the Nike contract came way after that you were sort of well known for, like on social media, wouldn't you say?
I think I was known probably like for a couple different things, but I wouldn't have considered myself like
Like,
well-known celebrity. I mean, I still don't consider myself a
I guess
celebrity.
in our little
Certain-
tiny niche of running, though, like I would
Yeah.
find that it would be tough if you're into running and you are in this space, and if you've run on a trail, you have probably been suggested to follow Yellow Runner at this point, right?
I don't
But-
I don't know. You know, when I started my social media though, I was so I'm a fitness trainer and strength trainer and coach,
Mhm.
and I started that career because I wanted to stay at home with my kids. Like I didn't want to go back into the office. And so I built up my own fitness like business. And so in like 2007, 2008, I started utilizing Facebook because that was the more popular social media outlet that at that time. So I started using Facebook just to like push out like my classes and my boot camps and trail runs and things like that. And I think that was probably more of what I was known for. But I posted a ton about my kids too. So I don't anymore because they're teenagers now. So anyone that has teenagers, like you have to be really careful what you post.
Sure.
And always get their permission and like
Yeah.
so at most I might do stories on them now, but I posted a lot of us running together, like running on the trails, and even us like one of my favorite videos is my daughter working out with me in the garage. I'm doing like some you guys remember P90X?
Yes.
Oh
You
yeah.
guys remember
Yeah.
like my husband and I were so into that, and so I would run and do P90X, and my little babes would come in there and they would be doing like burpees with us.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
like
so you're
I-
actually one of the 10 people who bought it and then used it to its fullest extent?
No, I know people that did it.
But there's
it
so
was
many
so
people.
popular.
Yeah, like you go to a Goodwill now and you'll see
Yeah.
like racks of
My
the
whole
P90.
thing was, what do you do after the 90 days? It's like crap. You've done it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? My husband kept doing it. And then I think, then they always have to build on it, right? Like the creators are like P90X on crack, and then it's like one step up and
You've heard of 7-minute abs.
yeah. No, it's 8-minute abs.
Twice the shred, 1 minute more. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, so you talked about how you played soccer and also a P90X aficionado, among other things. So, For the purposes of our running podcast, how did you end up getting into trail and ultra running? Because that's kind of your, what you're most known for, I guess, at this point.
Well,
in
when
some
you
ways.
win Badwater 135, I think.
Well, you're
that-
giving away the.
Oh, damn it. Damn it.
Okay.
Never mind.
Yeah. So
You've
kind
done
of,
nothing.
how did your journey go from soccer player to ultra runner?
Yeah, I think because since I was a little girl, I knew I was going to be a professional athlete. That was like the dream that never left. And I really thought it was going to be in soccer. I'd come home from soccer practice and practice on the front lawn for a couple hours, juggling the ball and practicing my touches.
Wow.
And by the time I was 14, 15, I had just really developed this, a pretty stringent training program. So in my mind, I always believed like if I'm just practicing more than other people, that I'm just going to be better. Like I'm just going to be put in, as a little kid, you just think the more that I do, the more that I can practice, like I'm going to outplay people. And I didn't come from, I came from a family, we didn't have a lot of opportunity. I wasn't able to sign up for like extra classes or be on a club team, like all these things that was happening around me. People had private trainers and they were on traveling teams. And so I remember, asking my mom all the time, like, why can't I be on a club team? Why can't I do this? And her thing was always like, you can always work hard. You can complain or you can work hard. And so
Wow.
I'm really grateful for that, because even when we didn't have much, you can always choose to work. You can put in the work no matter what. You can always find a way. And so I think that is really kind of what allowed me to get to where I was as an adult, because by the time I finished college, I did a little bit of traveling with soccer like a year after college, and then I came home. I was a freshman English teacher, and I still loved training. So like I would train early in the morning before school. I'd go hit the gym weights like for an hour and a half before school, and then I'd go run after school. And I was like, oh, I'll do a marathon. And I didn't really know, like I just needed a goal. I needed to keep training, like it just something that I love doing. And I always wondered, like, why am I so passionate about this? Like I'm done with soccer. I don't know like this direction I'm going in, but I was like, I need to have fitness still be a part of my life. And so I did that for a few years, and then I had 2 kids. And even when I had my first kid, Mackenzie, when I was 26, and 6 months after she was born, I did the Marine Corps marathon. And
Sweet.
I pretty much trained like pushing her in a stroller, and it wasn't like a super fast marathon or anything, but I just remember loving everything about the run, but I wasn't super passionate about road. So I would think about like, man, what if I like trained really well and like I got up to like a pretty fast like road marathon. But I really loved lifting. I loved like strength training, and I loved this idea of kind of combining the two. So when I created my boot camp, that's what most of my workouts were. It was running and strength training, and a lot of circuits that kind of involved the two. And then I'd train women to go and do like mud runs were really popular around here. So there's mud runs, and we do trail runs during the week. So that was like 2008. And so during that time, I started, I bought tons of fitness magazines and running magazines just to keep up on like what was going on in the fitness world at the time, and always trying to learn. And I stumbled across these ultra races in Runner's World. They did this whole article, and I think it was Dean Karnazes and Ann Trayson,
Timing
a few other
wise,
people. And I was like,
that'd be
it
right
was
around Born to Run.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, yes. And well, actually, and Dean's, a few of his books had just come out as well. And one of them came with like a DVD. And
Sounds
I was like, "Dude, this is crazy. Like this, people do this." But I was most fascinated with like the fact that our body is able to run 100 miles. I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. And I've always loved a challenge. I'm really curious. I was like, dude, I'm going to sign up for one. And everything that I read, which there wasn't a lot, it was more like forums and really weird, odd electro music YouTube videos of someone shaking, running
Yeah.
down a trail.
Without
It was like there is
stabilization.
nothing out there on how to train for these things. And so I would go into Facebook and I would literally enter keyword ultra runner, trail runner, and just see names pop up. And
Like I
one of
run
the first
far.
persons yeah, but Katja Corbet was one of the first
Yeah.
persons that
Oh,
I
yeah.
like. She was so sweet to me and gave me all like these tips and stuff. And but everyone was like, "Dude, you need to do a 50K," and I was like, "50? It's like 5 more miles in a marathon. That's not a challenge." Like why
Robbie
would
just
I
did one this
do that?
weekend.
I do with, yeah. My ankle is currently on
Not
it.
putting down the 50K.
What a sissy over here.
If it looks like I'm slouching, it's because I'm resting my ankle on a chair right now as I rolled it.
Robbie, get out there
Suddenly
and
you're
run
out
60 more miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, 69 more miles. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So I signed up for American River 50. That was my first one in April of 2010, and
You bring up
I
a
fell in love with
really
it.
great thing that now it's kind of passed by, but ultra running really was a weirdo sport in 2010. Now it's like everybody and their
It was
moms run
weirdo.
an ultra, but it was bizarre humans doing it back in 2010.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
remember
when I would come to the start line, there weren't a lot of chicks out there, and there were a lot of girls out there, and there weren't a lot of like moms with young kids.
No.
Like but everyone was so nice. Like I think that was the other thing that I love. Like I go on the start line, everyone's talking to each other. Oh, where are you from? Cool. What's your name? You ever done one? You know, like wow. Like of all the road races I've done, like I had never been
Right.
so welcomed, and every race I met people. Like I made friends and we'd keep in touch, and it's how I met all the guys I ended up training with, like Billy Yang and Colin Cooley and Dave Daly. Like all those guys, like you just meet them at races, and then pretty soon you're like, hey, we live by each other. Let's go do a long run. And
yeah.
so that 2010 was definitely like it was a new pivoting change in my life. My kids were really little too when I ran it. They had just turned 2 and 4 a couple weeks before.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So learning to juggle that was different. My life looked really different, and I had to have a lot of conversations with my husband because I couldn't just like go on these long trail runs for hours and hours. So, I was taking the kids to the gym, and I'd try to get 60 minutes into the gym. And then when they were napping, I'd hop on the treadmill for like 30 minutes while they're napping. And then late at night, so I was sometimes training 2 to 3 times a day, not long,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it took me that long 2 to 3 times a day to get in like 9 miles.
Yikes.
And I just had to commit to that. I had to kind of be okay with like, yeah, my training's not going to look like anybody else's. I'm not going to be able to like pull up a training plan and follow it
Yeah.
right along. I have to come up with my own way if I want to make this work. And so for the next 3 years, that's really what I did. Was I just started to carve out a path that fit my life and my family, and still, wanting to be a good mom and run my business. I mean, I had a lot going on in my life, but there was a piece of me that was like trying to fulfill a dream that I had had since I was a little girl.
I mean,
and
that's real
I was like,
endurance.
"That's it. I need to go after it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many during that time? How many miles a week were you doing?
Because I was brand new, I'd say in the beginning I was probably only doing between like 50 and 70 miles a week,
That's a
like
lot,
that
though.
first year.
With the kids.
With
and the
Yeah,
with,
I mean,
with a 2 and a
my
4-year-old,
activity
yeah.
level, but my activity level was always really high. So as a college athlete, you are training a lot of times twice a day, and your soccer games are an hour and a half. So endurance was something I
Yeah.
had built up my whole life. And I would say that to anybody starting into ultra running. Just because you're planning to race a 30-mile race doesn't mean that right away you're running 100-mile weeks, and like
Right.
you can really destroy your body. And I learned that my first 2 years, like I beat up my body really good. In fact, in 2011, I barely raced at all.
Oh, wow.
And I did some shorter like trail races to test my legs, because I got 2 injuries right away, because I thought, well, ultra running means you just run as much as possible. And so after I did American River 50, 4 weeks later, I ran PCT 50, and a week later, I ran Bishop 50 miler, and then a couple months after that, I ran 100K.
Wow.
I just trashed my body. So
Yeah.
it took me a couple years to learn my lesson. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate too about sharing my strength training and just like the right way to train, the right way to recover, because it's easy to get caught up in the comparison game or not know someone's background. Like some people was like, "Oh, dude, this runner's like so badass, just came onto the scene and they're crushing it." I was like, no, there's years and years of work.
Mhm.
Like you don't know if that person was coached all throughout college. Like you don't know all the background work. If they've been an athlete their whole life, like that's their base,
For sure.
So
What,
and so following stuff on social media can be super dangerous, which is what I did, and that's why I got injured. And so then I thought, I want to start sharing what makes our bodies strong. So I think like in 2013, Billy Yanks started helping me put out exercise videos, strength training stuff. A lot of single leg work. It was my first stuff. You can still find it on YouTube. In fact, I think Outside Magazine picked up one of them and it got all these views and we were like all excited. But that kind of began the journey of like, let's be strong runners. Here's the things that I do to stay injury free. And yeah, so it's kind of been like a hybrid journey for me of
what
running far and lifting.
what's kind of crazy about what you're talking about here and combining like the family with the running is I think a lot of times when people first get into running also, they don't realize that you don't just have to have endurance for the running part. You have to have build up endurance
Yeah.
so that you can spend time with your family, spend time, with your kids.
So
It's
true.
like finish your run, don't go to the couch, continue with the rest of your day. And I don't think that
Dude, I'm so glad you bring that up. Yeah. That I think that are both you guys parents?
Uh-huh.
You guys have kiddos?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have 3 and a
Yeah.
6-year-old, so yeah.
and 13 and 10.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're in. Okay, those are such fun years, but like exhausting, right?
For sure. Yeah. Oh, like last night I was up all night because my 3-year-old has a fever and was waking up every 2 hours. So yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You're in it
Luckily, he
thick.
didn't have to
They
run
need-
this morning.
Yeah, yeah, that's the only nice thing. But yeah, so
Yeah.
like you were saying, that is an interesting point.
But I think that that's what, when you talk about ultra running and you get into that mindset really serves you well. Like when you realize, hey, there's not a couch at the end of this. There's more to do. And then when you get out on the long run, it's just like, hey, this is the easy part.
So true. I think too, I'd say when I first started, I didn't meet a lot of moms. Even now, there's not as far as the level that I'm running at. I don't meet a lot of like moms of kids. My kids are teenagers now. They were
Yeah.
babies when I started, but that part's been a little lonely and at sometimes has been frustrating for me because I realize I had to, I would get frustrated that like, dude, I don't get to wake up at 8 a.m., train for 5 hours, take a nap, make an organic like meal that took you an hour to make and like,
See,
and
and
then go train again and get up
when
early.
I was just looking at your
Like, so-
feed though, and I said to Robbie, I was like, where do you get a life where you get enough time to run and do all these workouts? And I'm like, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like I had to understand that like the journey that I was on, it was important to embrace. And not only that, to share that with other people that wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed, I didn't come into running because I was copying somebody else or because I was doing it the way they were doing it. And, and I had sat under, when I was getting my coaching certifications too, I remember distinctly one of the guys that was doing this one part of our certification. He was a former like world champion athlete in like multi-sports. And, he did like the endurance, like the ultra kayaking and mountain biking, like all over the world. This guy was
Wow.
so legit. But I remember him saying, and this before I was signed, I remember him saying like, yeah, if you want to make it to the top, like you will have no life. Like that's the way it goes. Like you need to be selfish and you're not going to have family. It's like 24/7 if you want to be the best. Like he was just hammering this home. And I remember thinking I remember thinking to myself, I was a little bit bitter listening to him because I was like, I don't know, like I'm not sure, like that doesn't sound attractive. If that is truly what it is to be at the top of your game, is that you have to become this selfish person that's so
Yeah.
self-absorbed and you're not serving other people and you don't have relationships and I don't know if I want that, but it did light a fire in me thinking I'm going to find a way to do that.
Well,
Like I want to know that for a lot of female athletes, like they get signed before they have families. Like that's the way it works. And we've even seen like especially in recent years, a lot of women who have been pro athletes and then they got pregnant and then it was like they lost their contracts and this all uprising and these conversations kind of forming around that, and brands then now creating new clauses that say, well, if you get pregnant it's okay, and you're still going to keep on, and having to make things more legally binding. But for me, I didn't have any support as a mom. I'd say that most of the moms even in my community thought I was crazy. They thought I was a bad mom. I felt I had a lot of shame that I
Wow.
I
Yeah.
dealt with, because they just thought, well, if you're pursuing something, then that means that you're neglecting your
Selfish.
children and your house and da 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 da. Yeah, so I spent a lot of years just kind of feeling isolated, but it also that was the fuel that drove me to prove everyone wrong in that area
Yeah, you
too,
could do
and
it.
say like, there's a lot of women like me. There's a lot of women who want to be able to still pursue the things they love and show their kids that their dreams are worth it, and still be good moms
Right.
and still
Yeah.
be present.
I think there's two
And
things in
so,
that though. Like
yeah.
there's two parts to that. I think people don't realize that running is like a meditation or something like that. That you're a better mom when you are
So
physically fit and have taken time for yourself. You're a better mother for that.
true.
And the second part is
Yeah.
we're seeing some examples of women that are proving that myth wrong, like Kira D'Amato, who's also a Nike sponsored athlete. And we're seeing
Sarah Hall.
they
Yeah, Sarah
have
Hall, yeah.
kids and they're back in, fighting shape and not just
Breaking
in
world
it, but
records.
yeah, taking down world records. The narrative is changing, and hopefully it's kind of like the difference between, I see like the ultra racing in 2010 where it was like some weirdos in vans and stuff like that, to now it's like much more mainstream. It's like when you tell someone, you're like Robbie here who just did a 50K, and you're like, hey, you did a 50K. Yeah, that's great. I just did a 100-miler. Oh, I'm doing 7 sisters. It's like it's a one-upmanship on all these things. But yeah, I think that we're gonna see it evolve, and that also women looking up to examples like yourself to say, you know what, it is possible to juggle this stuff and not just do it as a hobby, but maybe pursue it as a profession.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen so many changes already. And I think that in my personal journey, I didn't feel like I needed to get on social media and like blast everyone or everything, like, because I still had I also had a lot of supportive people in my life. And I think many times when we feel discouragement, a lot of it comes from the inside. It's what we are choosing to believe and what we're choosing to accept. And you could have 20 people cheering you on and telling you're doing great and they're supporting you, and then it's like that one person that says an off comment, and you see that a lot on social media. So then they'll post that off comment and raw, and it's like, dude, but what about all these people that support you and love you? And like, so for me,
Are you
I
talking about
realized that was a
Kanye?
big part of oh my gosh. No, I feel like the big part of endurance sports is your mind. And so you have to choose, like, this is what I'm going to accept, this is what I'm going to believe. Like, you could be Mother Teresa, you're always going to have your critics, you're always going to have opinions, and you have the power to choose what to accept and absorb and what to kind of bat off. So I've had my husband's been incredibly supportive. He's quiet more in the background. He'd rather not do social media. Doesn't give a crap what people think of him. But there's no one that's been as supportive and helpful and cheering me on as much as he has. And I'd say that, like Kira D'Amato, she's awesome. I call her a friend. She also has an incredibly supportive family.
Yeah.
Sarah Hall, same thing. And I'm all about I'm all about that. Like we can talk about being strong women, but I think it's important that we equally say like I have a strong team of people. And when I first started trail running, I mean, I became a stronger trail runner because of the guys that I ran with. There was 4 guys that I'd run with all the time, and no drama. It wasn't like gossip hour. It wasn't like all these feely conversations. Like I just wasn't into that stuff. So I loved training with guys for that reason. I was like, dude, let's go get the work done. But these guys ended up becoming like my brothers. I mean, to this day, they're like my bros, and I love them and their families so much. And but I attribute a lot of my training and pushing. I mean, these guys pushed me so much, and yeah, so it's a community. I think strong women are strong enough to stand up and tell the world that like it isn't just me that's being strong. Like I'm recognizing that I've surrounded myself with strong people,
Yeah.
and people that believe in me and have allowed me, help me, push for all these years.
Yeah, and so kind of coming back to the whole social media thing and people pointing out, that one person who likes to talk shit on social media. It always seems to be the same person who always posts it all the time.
You can block people.
Right.
Yeah, but it's the same type of person. But I listened to your interview on Floris Gearman's podcast, and
Oh, I love Floris.
which he's an
awesome
awesome dude. Yeah, and I'm sure you've
He
run with him
really
at times.
is.
But
Yeah.
one of the things you talked about was you don't have your body type isn't of a prototypical or a stereotypical like runner, and so a lot of times
Yeah.
people will be like you'll actually get people commenting on that, which is crazy. And then you have to deal with that. So like
Almost daily.
that's so crazy.
I'm not lying. It is daily. If I go out in shorts in a tank top or anything, I'm in a coffee house, grocery store, library, it doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
It
just
isn't all negative though. I mean, but yeah, I
yeah.
remember that conversation with Floris.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I didn't know if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, can you
just
give a
kind
little
of-
context because I didn't catch that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna preface it with this. I don't think I mean we're given eyes for a reason. There's nothing wrong with noticing like, wow, the sunset is beautiful, that, or that, that guy's really tall. I wonder if he plays basketball. Like, we as humans, we are constantly judging and evaluating things around us, and we are constantly, going through opinions in our mind and connecting how things work. So there had to be a point like in my life where I had to be gracious about that. Cause I'm like, wait, I actually do the same thing. Like I've asked tall guys if they play basketball and they roll their eyes at me like, no,
Right.
just cause I'm 6'4" doesn't mean,
Yeah.
and so it's pretty much the same thing. If someone comes up to me, they're like, dude, do you do CrossFit? Cause I have quads that look like redwood trees. Like I'm not like, why would I be so offended that they didn't say, hey, are you an ultra runner? Like, I think that there's a little bit of pride that can very easily come in when we talk about our bodies and this idea of like they should know better. They should know exactly what I do. It's like, really? Like are people really thinking about you that much? Like sometimes I've realized that people will, especially in the gym, I've had men and women approach me and they'll say something right away like, dude, like, are you training for Ironman? Or it's never runner. I mean, I'd say like I could maybe 8 times in my entire life if people thought I was a runner. And when I first started in ultra running, I used to be offended by that. I used to like, gosh, everyone thinks that I'm like a kickboxer or UFC fighter or like a bodybuilder always. And then I thought, okay, I need to actually like check my heart and my mind and ask myself why that bums me out. And it really came down to me. It came down to the fact that I had been internally thinking about the fact that I don't look like all the other girls in endurance running. Like I do not look like a road. If I stand on that start line, it would be very obvious that I'm the biggest person on the start line. And in my mind, I kept telling myself that was a bad thing. And in 2015, 2016, I went and saw 3 different nutritionists, and one of them had run this like body fat testing where they submerge you. You know, they submerge you in the water, and it was like this package deal. You could get like submerged in the water, you could get your VO2 max tested, and then they come up with a nutrition plan for you. And so in my mind, I was thinking, and I was already signed. So Nike had signed me as a big
Whoa.
muscular girl. So for me, still wasn't content. And this is the great problem, is that believing a lie. I chose to do that. And I had a lot of people that supported me. I had a lot of big brands that were supporting me, that believed in me. You know, at this time, I was going back to Western States for the second time. I had finished in the top 10. Like, I'd been invited to races all over the world, but I wouldn't accept that I was good enough because I wasn't small enough. And so when I went to this nutritionist and she dunked me and, you know, she put me on the VO2 max, she sat me down and she's like, well, why are you haven't told me what you do for a living. And I was like, and I didn't want to tell her because I wanted to have like a real pure opinion. And she's like, all your numbers tell me that you're elite. She's like, your body fat is 11% and your VO2 max is really high. She's like, what do you do? And so I told her, I'm an endurance runner. She's like, really? I wouldn't think you're an endurance runner. I'm like, yeah, thanks. And I
Here
was
we
like,
are
I'm
again.
actually wondering. I'm wondering if you can help me like lessen the muscle in my body. And she just kind of like leans back and looks at me sideways and she's like, yeah, I don't do stuff like that. And she's like, are you eating well? And then she's like trying to fish if I have like an eating disorder, which
Mhm.
that is something I have not struggled with in my life. I go on the other end. I super love to eat. And so I was like, no, I'm good at eating, and I'm just trying to like lessen the muscle. I think it gets in the way, and I'm pretty big out on the mountain trying to push myself up a mountain. And she just paused right there and said, you know what, the reason why you can perform at the level is because of the body that you have.
Mhm.
If you take the muscle away, you won't be able to perform well. And I don't want to wreck your performance. And so I don't think we can work together. And literally, like, that was it. Like, she pretty
Whoa.
much dismissed me.
Oh wow.
But it was good. It was a good conversation for me. It was very healthy. It was the first time I had gotten, my a true like body fat test. I then did the DEXA scan, the one where you lay and they kind of like scan over your body. That one's a little bit more accurate. Same thing. I went in and I didn't tell the guy what I did for a living. I was just like, hey, I'm a mom, and I saw your truck, and
I'm
like,
just the strongest
I wanna
mom you've ever met. Yeah.
so he scans me and he's like, okay, what do you do for a living? He's like, the only people that have ever had these numbers are my professional wrestlers. And I was like, oh. I go, well, I'm a professional endurance runner. I do ultras. He's like, oh, okay. And same thing. Like, I told him the same thing. Like, I was just wondering how you would like lessen the muscle. And so that's my a somewhat embarrassing, humbling story of the journey that I have taken because of what people would say to me. Because strangers and critics and comments, I believed it as real. I believed that I wasn't good enough. I would never be at that level. And then, of course, like, I piled on the fact that I didn't train like everyone else. I didn't have the rest and the recovery and the freedom to train and have these like well thought out training programs because I was raising babies. So
Yeah.
um
You're actually giving
yeah.
me something else to think about here. And it has, we always talk about it in body type when it comes to running, because I think
Mhm.
it's a prevalent
Yeah.
thing in running. But I think it comes down
Yeah.
to something else. It comes down to wanting to belong. It's the same thing when I was a skateboarder, when I was a
Yeah.
teenager. I wanted to look like a skateboarder. I wanted to have the right
Yeah.
shirts, the right shorts, the right
Yeah.
shoes.
You needed Vision Streetwear.
Oh, yeah, you want
You
people
needed
to see you and
your
go,
jacket.
skateboarder. And I think it's the same thing with running. I think that maybe we attribute to, because it is funny when you said, hey, I want to lose muscle, and obviously your performance is going to go down if you get rid of muscle.
Yeah.
I think that people
Yep.
think, oh, if I'm lighter, I'm faster, but obviously the muscle is what's
Yeah.
propelling you. But it is wanting
Mhm.
to just belong and to fit in and to be recognized as somebody that's part of something that you love. So if you're not instantly
Mhm.
recognized as a runner, it sucks
Mhm.
to, I guess,
Yeah.
sometimes. So, and we all want to belong.
Yeah. No, that's such a great point. And I think the beauty in that is understanding that you belong all the time. And there isn't, we can dig back through history and find out, wait, who's the person that started this? Who's the person that started and said that we need to look like this, or we need to do this in order to belong? But it's understanding like you belong from day one because you're here, and the things that you are passionate about and that you love and that you are even like naturally gifted at since the time you were a little kid, a lot of times those shape your journey. They're supposed to be a part of your journey. And sometimes the greatest part of your story is the fact that you didn't look like everyone on the basketball team. Like you were Sped Webb at 5'3", winning a dunking contest. Like, and that guy will always be remembered.
Pulling Sped Webb out.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I loved him. Like I actually think he was 5'6". Maybe it was another guy that was 5'3", but still,
Muggsy
like,
Bogues was
Muggsy Bogues was tiny.
yeah, you're right. And I think that is so powerful for anyone. It's like, well, if you really love something and you actually genuinely are passionate about it, it's something you really want to do, then you need to focus forward and not to your right or left. Focus on the goal and go after it, because no matter what, you will be that much better if you're putting in the work than if you just sit and you criticize yourself and you don't do anything because you're listening to a bunch of strangers talk about what you can and can't do. And at the end of the day, most of your critics are people that don't try themselves. Most of your critics are people that actually need to be loved and encouraged and inspired themselves, because they're spending their time criticizing you. They're not spending their time working on their goals. And that's something that I tell my kids all the time. You should be listening to the people that you want to be like, the people that are your heroes, that live their lives with integrity, that put in the hard work, not people who sit around and gossip and criticize and tear other people's down. Do you want to be like that person? No. Then why do you care what they have to say? And I think that for athletes, that's really powerful. The people that I look up the most, my heroes, I mean, some of them aren't even runners. It's just the way they live their life, the way that they live their lives with integrity. They put in that work and they lift other people up. And that can totally change your path. That changes your work ethic. When you have the right mindset, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you love it and you're passionate about it, you're going to go after it. And I think that, that 2015, 2016, those 2 years, I had to make that decision. Like, I'm just going to own this. Like, you know what? I am big. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that word. I know that triggers some people, and even some people, they'll meet me like, dude, you're not even like that big, or you're this, you're that. And I'm like, it goes all ways. Everyone has like all these opinions. But I started to use it as a connecting point. And I said, every time someone comes up and talks to me, that's actually an opportunity to speak to them. I have this opportunity to encourage somebody, and I have no idea where that'll lead. And, I've shared this story a couple times. It's really simple, but in 2016, I was still kind of struggling with myself. And I used to wear like these really big jackets. It didn't matter where I was or what temperature was, but I had finished this training run out on the trails. It was a summer day. And a lot of times after I finish a long run, if there's a Whole Foods nearby, I will go there and just plow down food. I love the salad bar that's there that has like the hot food.
That gets expensive, that Whole Foods salad bar. They like soak
I
everything
know,
in
it's
water.
whole paychecks.
Yeah, you get a $20 salad.
Right?
Yeah.
So this was my treat for my long run. But I had one of these jackets in my car, and I was like sweaty, and I was just wearing like my Spanx shorts and a tank top, and I was like, oh, I'll throw on the jacket because I don't want to deal with people. Like I don't want to talk to anyone. Like I don't want someone saying something about how I look. And so I grabbed my jacket, I put it on, and then I just kind of froze in that moment. I was like, you know what? This is like so controlling. Like this is like such a thing that controls me. Like I'm always like worried or anxious about it. I'm worried and anxious about what I naturally look like when I shouldn't be. So I took it off. I threw it in the back seat. I walk into the grocery store. In less than a minute, I noticed this woman staring at me, and I'm in the aisle. And like for me, because it happens so much, like I'm so intuitive to it. Like it might be kind of like freaking out, but like 99.9% of the time, I'm like, this person's staring at me. So I pretend to like pick something up, and then I go around to the next aisle, and she follows me. I'm like, unbelievable. She's gonna say something in 3, 2, and then she did. She's like, hey, can I ask you something about your legs? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, your legs are just amazing, and they're so strong. How do you get them like that? And I turn and look at this woman, and she's beautiful, and she's very fit. She's got her fitness clothes on and looks like she maybe just got done with a workout herself. And I look, I was kind of like stunned by it. And she goes on to say, I've been working with my trainer for 2 years and I've been wanting legs that look like yours and we just can't get there. And I don't know what's wrong. And as she's speaking, I'm looking at her face and her face just looks so sad. She
Oh.
looks so discontent. And when she finishes talking, I thought I can say one of two things. I can talk about myself or I can talk about her. And so I look at her, I was like, well, first of all, I go, I have to, you notice me, but you look amazing. You look very fit. I can tell that you work really hard. And she drops her eyes down to the ground and she's just like, yeah, but I can't get to where I want my legs to look like yours. And I thought, well, it looks like your legs look great for what you have. And, we all have different muscle tone, but like, I can tell you're working hard. And she just, she smiled back at me, but she kind of just shook her head and walked away. And that wasn't like what she wanted to hear.
Right.
And as I left the grocery store that day, I realized, our fitness and our physical bodies so often are deeply connected with how we feel about ourselves and how we view ourselves. And sometimes we glorify muscles, we glorify the person that just looks amazing. We think that also inwardly they're amazing, but sometimes it's a way that we also hide what we're feeling on the inside. And this woman was very unhappy. And I thought, if I'm just going to commit now. If people are going to come up and talk to me, if they're drawn to me because like, wow, she's muscular, I'm going to flip the conversation and I have the opportunity and the power to use that to connect with someone in a real way, somewhere that isn't just the physical surfacey way. Like I can use that to encourage someone else or even make a friend. So that's ultimately what really helped me kind of move on from that, is like, no, this is the body I'm supposed to have. And it isn't all about just me. It's the fact that I get to use it to not only run, but I can connect with people because of it.
I gotta say that's pretty refreshing to hear, because I feel like nowadays everybody's just looking for a reason to get angry at someone else. So like using that,
Well,
and you could,
We are on the East Coast.
and justifiably, justifiably you could have a reason to be mad at someone coming up to you and talking to you, but to actually look for it as a way to connect with someone and find out more about them is like.
But I have a question for you. This is for Robbie. I do feel like this is a gender difference thing, because I have never in my entire time of running had anybody comment
for sure
on like, oh, you look or don't look like a runner.
Yeah.
I mean, do you encounter that? I've never come up to you and been like, you got great calves, bro. How'd you do that?
Actually, I feel like you have said that before.
You do have nice legs. But
I'm pretty proud of it.
yeah. Okay.
I mean,
think it's
obviously,
a different way though too. I think guys just, especially I've been going to the gym since I was 16. And looking back, I just giggle because I'm like, I think of all the times men would come up to me and be like, hey, sweetie, you need to be holding the dumbbells like that, just trying to give me pointers. And so I've listened to a lot of conversations in the gym. You're sitting there in between sets and you just kind of pay attention to what's going on. And I'm really comfortable in the gym. Like I think that women, it's getting a lot better, but like in my young 20s, like I was always the only girl in the weight room. Like the girls were always on the cardio machines or like on the assisted weight, the seated stuff.
Elliptical.
But I love throwing around dumbbells and barbells and things like that. So, I learned by listening, and I found that like men were super supportive. I mean, they're in there spotting each other, and they're talking about how they're gonna build up their chest and what they're doing. Oh, dude, what are you doing for shoulders, bro? Like, everything was
Maybe
like,
we need to go to the gym.
I like wanted to be a part of that. Like I thought, like where it was pretty supportive. Is just that women, didn't tend to come in there. But I will say I also have my fair share of, you get harassed a little, a little bit here and there because it isn't common, to see like strong women lifting weights next to the guys. But it's changed. I mean, it's changed a lot. Like I'm starting to see a lot more women in there. But I think you're right. Like as far as the way that that men interact with each other. Like you don't hear a lot of that. Hey, you don't look like a soccer player, or here's this. There's teasing, and then because I have a son, like I hear them like tease each other, and then they just kind of like shake it off and they go back to playing their game. But like girls, like if a girl can't go up to another girl and be like, oh my gosh, your boobs are so small and you look terrible in that shirt. I mean, that's like an immediate enemy. Like you're not talking to that girl forever. But you hear guys kind of, oh, dude, your calves are so small, like, pencil legs. And
I guess
yet
that's
they're
true
like
too.
best buddies,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just,
Like Robbie calls me
So-
pencil legs, but I blow it off and I'll still run with him. But then I go home and I cry for like an hour.
Yeah. That's first time I'm hearing about this, so that's on you for
Yeah.
not telling me.
We're still friends.
right?
Well,
I don't know. I think it's trying to just be more healthy in the way that we just communicate about bodies. I do realize though that when I post body stuff, that I still have a lot of people that my heart breaks, and I want to be very empathetic and sensitive to it, that people are really triggered. Like, what a-hole said that to you? I can't believe people need to stop saying this. I'm like, whoa, like that's never my reaction. Like
Yeah, it's usually.
it's okay.
I find it's really strange. Usually when we see a comment, like if we're reading women's posts or something and somebody makes a comment, it's a dude who's going to jump up and be like super offended before anybody else usually. You notice that?
yeah, I don't know. I think there is like people are just looking to be offended and get angry about things. So it's just like anything like that. And it's like, obviously there's some things like to be offended and angry about, but sometimes it's just like people are like, people are
Just in the ready state.
Yeah. And people just get mad at people who might just, I don't know. There's no grace, I feel like, for some things.
But as much as we talk bad about social, I think it's so inspiring to see like your feed and see like you work for what you've got. And I love that, especially now, we talk about, not everybody wants to work for everything anymore, or, and they just expect it to just come to them. And even, they come into the workforce and they're like, they want to be CEO the first day. And, it's like,
Right?
nobody has that work. So it's fun to sometimes see people who are out there busting their ass, doing the work. And you're like, oh, she deserves to have success. She's done the work to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it on your feed, which I think is a positive thing about social media. It gets bashed all the time, but I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, so much positive. I mean, there's no way that I could possibly keep up with all the messages that come in. Like the private messages are pretty amazing, and people will get really, heartfelt and vulnerable and share things like, you encourage me, you talk me off a cliff, or like, I feel like I belong now, or, whatever it is. There's a whole like spectrum of the reason why people will send me like a heartfelt message. And so, and that encourages me just to be better at what I'm doing and to be really thoughtful in what it is that I post. But I am always kind of evaluating, what is going on in social media. I see like a really great way that we can connect and encourage. But then it's not buying into the fact that we all need to be reactive and ranting. And, I look at like my kids' social media, and it's a thing to like record yourself crying. It's a thing
Like,
to
what is
record
that?
I don't wanna
yourself,
see
like, yeah. And so the emotions and feelings, it's like a thing to rant, like as if like that's what we're doing now. And to actually think in your head that everyone feels this way, everyone
Yeah.
is this angry. And I think it's having to go into social media with a healthy point of view that one, there's only a few people in my life that get to speak into my life with, with truth and opinion. Like I don't want to be flattered all the time. I don't want to be told that I'm right all the time or that everything I'm doing is great, because it's not. Like I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say things that I shouldn't. And, there's me people that are going to disagree with me, but it's so nice when I know that if I post something that I need to receive the compliments the same way that I do the criticisms. And so I just don't receive any of them, because as soon as I start posting just so that people will say good things about me, or that nice words are going to be for everyone to see, well, then that's going to stress me out, because as soon as somebody criticizes me or gives a harsh opinion, well, then I'm going to take that on too. And so I think social media is just being careful with how you react to what people are saying and stay true to who you are.
Yeah.
And when I started posting in 2009 on Facebook, that was something that I literally wrote down and said, I will be who I am as a real person on social media. When you meet me, I'm no different. And I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm okay sharing about my failures. I'm okay sharing about the things that are imperfect, because that ultimately is a responsibility that I feel that I have. The more people that follow you, I believe we have the responsibility to be truthful and to live with integrity and to put out good. And there's so much crap. You scroll through social media, there's so much negativity, there's so much ranting. And if that's what people are there for, great. But if you're going to come to my profile, you're not going to get that. And so it's just sticking to your message. And ultimately it's almost like a brand. Like that's my brand, to be encouraging and loving and to stand up for things that maybe aren't popular. I talk about that with strength training all the time. I was not popular in strength training. I had literally coaches and other people that would, kind of turn their nose at me for the way that I train and even the way that I look. And, I think there's room for everyone at the table. But at the end of the day, it has to be rooted in love and kindness if it's going to last.
Yeah.
I agree. You know what we should do before we wrap up this hour, though?
What?
I mean, I love that message of being, and we live by that. One of the things that we kind of wrap ourselves around is our honesty and our authenticity when it comes to the things that we do. So we can appreciate what you're saying. But I think we haven't told people all the great things she's done.
Yeah, I feel like man, I'm
the winning of Badwater. Like, let's talk about some stuff.
It's old.
It's not old. Like, how many people like? I don't know. I feel like that's exceptional in its own right.
You.
But just some of the things, like once you do have a following and you have people out there, when you step on the line, it's a little different because you're being watched and you know that people are invested in your performance, whether they're rooting against you or for you. There's a feeling, a little bit of weight, and so it takes some extra courage, I think, to step out there when you are as public and open about your training and all this stuff. And you've had some good success, and you said you're happy sharing your failures, but right now I'd rather hear about some of your successes, some of your favorite races, and some of the things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'd say the successes are hard for me. It's hard for me to count my successes. I mean, all my medals and trophies are actually in a little dusty box on a shelf. Like I'm kind of hard on myself when it comes to that. So winning Badwater was a really big deal to me because it was something that I had thought about and dreamed about and gone back and forth with, like even running the race anyway, for about a decade. So when that came true, and it was not the performance that I had trained for, which, you hear that a lot, like, it wasn't my day, but it's like, I don't train to have my day. I train to be a better version of myself. And winning Badwater was overcoming a lot of physical challenges that I think would have sidelined me in years past. In fact, it was like, I know it's TMI, my intestines were not great starting at mile 14. And I had a race at UTMB in 2017 that at mile 80, I pulled out for that reason. Like, I just couldn't keep anything down. And like, it was just terrible. And so when that happened at Badwater, start at mile 14, I remember telling myself, the power of the mind is able to overcome so much physical discomfort. And I knew that. I believed that in my life. I've endured a lot of outside of sport. The home that I grew up in was a bit violent. I had a dad that was very disapproving of me and wasn't very kind to me as a child, and hurt me a lot. And so I did grow up knowing how to handle a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain, like true pain and suffering. I always say that there is no pain and suffering in ultras. It's easy. That's stuff we get to do. It's a gift to be able to test our body. It's a gift to be able to pay all that money to line up at a start line. But if we don't take what we learn in those races and apply them to our real life, then we've lost. That's where we lose. And so for me, when I struggle in a race like I did at Badwater, I was heartbroken because I trained so hard. I mean, I lived like the last last 6 weeks before that race, I lived out there. Like half of the week I was in the desert, and then half the week I was at home. And like I knew every inch of that race. I mean, I would do repeats up and down Mount Whitney, hundreds of miles training on that. I knew that I was going to finish fast and hard, and I wanted to, go for a fast time and be the champion. But
Real
the
quick,
struggle,
sorry, can you,
yeah.
for listeners who don't know, can you just give a quick rundown of Badwater 135,
Oh,
just in case anyone
yeah.
doesn't know?
Yeah, and from
No,
grade school, I
well,
went to
dude.
school in California growing up, and Mount Whitney is the tallest peak in California, by the way.
Okay.
It's the tallest peak in the lower 48 states.
There you go.
So it's,
Did not know that.
yeah, it's, I gotta honor Alaska.
Rainbow trout, serpentine. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So it starts at the lowest point, at Badwater Basin, the lowest point, which is like 264 feet below sea level. And then you run to the highest point. That was the original course. The original course was 146 miles. You now need a permit to summit. So the finish line is now at the base of Mount Whitney. So you run up the mountain, it's like 12 miles. So you finish at the trailhead, which is
Okay.
about 8,000 feet elevation.
And you
But
run through
it's 135
Death
miles.
Valley, right?
Yeah, you run through Death Valley. You climb. There's like 3 massive climbs along the way, but it's chosen at the hottest time of the year. So the hottest temperatures in the history that have been recorded have been in Death Valley. So we run it in July, where last year temperatures were going past 130. So it's pretty gnarly. And that is probably one of the biggest challenges of this race. You have the distance, but you're fully exposed in heat and wind the entire time. So
Sounds fun.
I loved the challenge of it. It's kind of a weird race because I'm more of a mountain runner. I love running in the mountains. I'm not really a road runner, and this is run entirely on the roads. And so, when I was at the start line, I was confident in my fitness and well aware of, the path ahead of me, because I had done it in 2018 too. And I got 7th place. I did not do well, in the performance and what I hoped to have. So I was like, I'm going to do it better. So when I hit mile 14, I was pretty upset, and I thought, I've been here before. And in the past, there's a hard decision I have to make. I'm either going to tell my crew, hey, it's not our day, like we'll try another time. I can also be a complainer. So I could just sit and complain and just like, why does this always happen to me? Oh, woe's me. I could do that. Or I'm just gonna push and see what I'm made of. Can I get to that finish line strong with these terrible diarrhea and and then at mile 99 I started vomiting like nonstop. So I had a
Really
few
selling
physical ailments.
the race here.
Yeah, I'm really selling the race, guys.
Registrations
So-
are popping off right now.
Yeah, all over. People are like, sign me up now. But yeah, so I think finishing that race, winning that race, it took me a couple weeks, like after, as I thought about my performance, and I thought about some other performances in my past too, where I've been like, really, like this is how it's gonna go. Like this is the hand I've been dealt. I think about Tarawera ultra marathon in New Zealand. It's a 100-mile race, and the first year they did the 100-miler, I was so excited because I was like, dude, I'm gonna go crush a fast 100. Like I know this course, like it's a fast course, like I could not wait to race. And then a massive hurricane came in.
Whoa.
And I was literally running through mud up to my shins for like over 30 miles.
Oh my
Like
God.
I
So
won
fast.
the race, but it was so slow. Like,
Yeah.
I was not running fast. And same thing, I struggled with that win because I was like, yeah, I won, but like, oh my gosh, I dealt with like crazy wind and rain and mud and like, having to push through this crazy weather. I've never run in something like that before. But then I realized, I'm like, no, this is like setting me up, like to be able to run in an extreme weather, to be able to push through these things. This is all about my brain. This has nothing to do what I can do physically. Like covering that distance when you train your body for so many years, it isn't hard anymore, as some people would say. It's just like when you put in the work, it's not hard. You're trying to be better at the distance, and how can I improve? How can I move faster? So when I finished Badwater and I thought back on it, I thought, you know what? So much of what I put out in social media, when I talk about encouraging others to keep going, or when I talk about, you're worth it, you're worth the work, like you never know what's, the best is yet to come. gosh, that is like exactly what this race was for me. Like maybe that's what my whole life is supposed to be about, is you can still get to the finish line with a limp. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be the strongest, most perfect person out on the start line. You don't have to be the fastest one on the start line. We're all on the same journey, and some of us are going to feel stronger at certain points. But the goal is getting to the finish line. And if that means that you're beat up and battered by the time you get there, you got there. And that's not anything we tend to celebrate all the time. But those who battle every day just to get out of bed and get through their day, I mean, those are people to be applauded. And that just kind of goes back to, if you don't take what you learn in ultras and apply it to your real life, then you're missing out, because you can really inspire other people when you push through, when it's so easy to DNF.
Yeah.
So we got to ask you, since we do a lot of shoe reviews and stuff here, what shoes did you wear for Badwater, considering the pavement temperatures can reach, like, I don't know.
Yeah. How does ZoomX do on black asphalt?
Yeah. We do, dude. The temperatures are like 180 on the pavement. It's insane. And I think, like, when you hear about Badwater, for those of you that are listening, if you look up like old files, maybe it's just because of the materials of shoes back then. I mean, people do talk about their shoes melting. I've done it twice in the hottest temperatures in the history of that race, and my shoes never melted.
Okay.
So,
Were they wooden clogs?
and maybe
though?
that's what
Wooden clogs.
Yeah, right. So I wore the Invincible, the Nike. It's a road running shoe, and it came out a couple years ago, and the back is like a square.
Yeah.
It's kind of square looking. I love that shoe. I logged thousands of miles in that thing, and it was awesome. I use that on the road, and then on the trail I kind of go back and forth between the Trail Pegasus and the Wild Horse. So I've used Wild Horse since day one.
I'm going to tell you something.
I'm wearing the Trail Pegasus right now.
You're
it's a good hybrid shoe. Like,
super
you can run road and trail.
Your Invincible thing, though, is, I think, like, that shoe didn't work for me, and I'll tell you why. I'm not super strong, and I think you have to be strong in that shoe because it's not as stable. So, like, all those
You're right.
exercises that you're doing keeps that, like, your legs can handle that. I get, maybe if I ran it exclusively, I would start to strengthen areas. But for some reason, I get, like, knee pain in that shoe because it, like, is kind of rockered from side to side. And I find that I'm stabilizing myself as I'm going. You're probably also a little faster than me, so you might be spending less time on ground.
That's a good point, because it does kind of have like a forward push a little bit. Like, when you're running in it, you feel like a little bit of bounciness. And I've brought it to the gym with me. So my test with shoes is, like, if I can train in the gym in the shoes. I think all trail runners need to do that, because sometimes I'll post videos. People are like, dude, why are you wearing those shoes? They're so unstable. Like, you should be barefoot, or you should be in zero drop. And I'm like, I do both. I do both. I'll be in Nike Freeze, or I'll be in my socks. But it is a good test as a runner. If you are not stable in your shoe, why the heck are you barreling down a mountain in it?
mean,
Like,
I would tell
if
you,
you can't balance,
I would not be able to do one-legged squats or something with Invincibles on. I know it right now because it would shake. I would shake too much.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. There's other shoes. I'm not here to bash any brands, and I don't think Nike is for everyone. I don't think there's one shoe for everyone.
There's Nikes I love. I just find that shoe a little. For me, it's a little.
Yeah.
Like I go.
Like,
but
there's
Invincible.
there's some shoes that have like a bad, either a bad stack height or they are unstable. I mean, I've had friends. It's the same brand over and over. They're always rolling their ankles. And I'm like, well, you might want to get in the gym and see if you can even balance on one leg and do a single leg squat. If you can't, that's probably why you're rolling your ankles every time you run.
I'm going to take a guess at what brand that might be. I don't think they have 1-1 at the end of them anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it the Hoka?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
I can't believe. Yeah, and they make good stuff. I mean, I see on the flip side, I have a buddy that's all he can wear because he has bone spurs in his feet. So like I said, you have to find the shoe that works for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So this isn't about bashing a shoe, and it's very revealing what kind of balance and coordination and strength you have. So not everyone wearing that shoe is going to be rolling an ankle, but if you feel like you are constantly, well, go get in the gym. How are you like with your balance and coordination? Like you could probably run better in the shoe if you put in the strength training.
Yeah. Like the Nike Invincible would probably be better for me to lift weights in, just because it's got a little more stability and a wider platform than the React foam.
Yeah,
Right.
I have horrible ankles from skateboarding as a kid, and then just rolling them. I just have bad ankles, like literally.
Wait, but are they bouncy ankles? See, because some athletes that played other sports, the bounciness can kind of be good because they can roll their ankles all day on the trail and never get a sprain.
It's
But if you have
interesting.
just enough strength,
It is interesting because, like, on this past 50K, I did roll it like what
17?
should have been bad, like at mile 7, and it
17.
came back. Like, it didn't hurt. It's just like.
But it hurts today.
But then no. What I'm saying is, then in mile 17, I was bombing downhill, and I was wearing the new Brooks Caldera, which I don't know if you've seen it. It's like
Pretty high stack.
It's like a 39-inch or
Yeah.
39 millimeter stack.
yeah, I used to wear Brooks. They have some good shoes.
Yeah, and so I was hit a rock and rolled it completely sideways and
Skaboo.
was able to finish it out, but it's pretty big today. Anyways, all I have to say, yeah, I know what you're saying about bombing the downhills, and if you're not, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not like super strong on my hips and knees and whatnot.
Well,
so
if
it's
you
like,
watched her video that's
I
on
know.
Instagram that says, do
Look
these
at
exercises.
you guys
so
all
you
like,
can
well,
go." Yeah.
which by the way, yes,
I'm not here to judge.
I might have to start enrolling your program. Which, by the way, you might as well throw it out there since we just brought it up.
Yeah. Pitch yourself.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, I started a strength and running app at Salad and Crave Fitness. I'll give you guys the link.
Yeah, we'll
if
put it in the
anyone is
description.
Yeah.
interested.
Hit us with the link.
Yeah, over the years, I've done a lot of coaching, almost 2 decades of coaching, and so we get, and my husband has helped with my business now this past year. It's been incredible, but we get a lot of coaching requests, and I was like, dude, I wish I could just like help more people, but I can't. I don't have the capacity. I can't take on 100 athletes and coach all of them. So this app was amazing because I'm able to coach a ton of people and just say, all right, like do this strength workout or do this or whatever. But it's an all-inclusive app. So if you sign up like monthly or just the annual membership, you can try it out for $1 for the first month, and it might be for you, it might not. But the app includes a community of trainers. So you'll see like, incredible other athletes like Nick Bear, Brian Mazza, Ryan Hall. They're all in the
Orion's in
community
there.
as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude,
so you
talk
you
about changing your
basically-
body and from sport. Like,
Oh, dude, he's so.
That's
I
insane.
love their family. He's amazing. But the app has. I mean, they have trainers in there that are just yoga or just HIIT or CrossFit or like there's nutrition and sleep. Like there's so much in there, and it's a pretty good deal. Like it's $99 for the whole year, but you can take it with you anywhere. So I have like audio guided runs in there where I like coach you in your ear. You can go out for a run for
Cool.
like a fartlek, and I'll talk to you the whole time. And then I have all of my strength workouts and I categorize them. So one of the most popular ones is called Running Foundations. And I always tell people, if you start on my app, go in there because it's no weights. I'm a big believer in real workouts. There's so much like fitness workouts you see right now on Instagram, and it's people that have no qualifications, but they look kind of sexy doing it. So you want to do it too. Like they look amazing in their clothes and
it's
they're
the lady walking up to you
they're
at the Whole Foods. Like, hey, she
yeah,
looks good.
and
She
they
must
have
be
like
doing it right.
chains on their necks. And, yeah. But like for me, I'm like, dude, if you can't even lift your own body, you shouldn't be throwing weight around. So that's what Running Foundations is. It's like, it's the single leg squats, a lot of single leg work and core work that helps assess yourself. So that's my goal is always you start with you. Don't just try to do the workouts I'm doing. Figure out where you're weak, where you have a lack of mobility and flexibility, and then build from there. And you'll know if you do my workouts, you'll notice a difference in the first couple weeks. Like
sweet.
it's awesome. So I have a couple programs in there that you can follow if you want workouts every day. There's a 4-week program and a 6-week program that combines running workouts and strength workouts.
Oh, cool.
And we've got thousands of reviews from people who are so much stronger, they're more flexible, they're running faster, and it's not crazy CrossFit stuff. Like if you have a set of dumbbells, you can do the workout. So
Awesome.
Yeah, the goal is to create something that was affordable, but to help endurance athletes. I mean, I have athletes of not just ultra runners, but triathletes, cyclists, hikers, track athletes. I have quite a few coaches that actually have brought it to, there's college teams and high school teams that sync it up, and they'll have their whole team do the
Oh,
workouts
that's
too.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
it's
cool.
been doing really well. And
So we'll
yeah,
put that in the description.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
let's wrap up with some quick, really short questions for you. We
yeah.
usually like to ask people headphones or no
Rapid
headphones.
fire. Ooh, I'm a music junkie, so it depends. Headphones in the gym, never in the mountains, but usually on the road.
Okay.
Cool.
If I popped open your playlist, what would I hear?
NF is one of my favorites for workouts. NF music. And in fact, I link my Spotify workouts in my app, so you can check those out.
Okay.
But I love you. I love you too. I love Odessa. I'm kind of
Oh,
all
yeah.
over the place. Because sometimes I'll run. I love M83, but like sometimes I'll run to Enya and like
You're speaking
Hammond.
Robbie's
Dude,
love language.
M83 is my
You like Hammond?
money jam for running. If like
Oh,
I'll play like sometimes to get hyped for races, I'll just play like the intro song. And it's just
for M83.
yeah, and it's just like the perfect
Yeah.
setup.
All right.
Anyway,
So
sorry, you're
next-
geeking me
Totally.
out on that.
Next one is
Well, you feel like you're in a movie, right? It's like a soundtrack.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
next one is at post race. What is your first celebratory meal or
bacon
beverage?
cheeseburger with avocado, man. Bacon
Love
cheeseburger
it.
with avocado and sweet potato fries.
And
Like,
what are
that's
we
the
drinking
meal.
with it?
Usually, oh man, that kind of goes back and forth. I drink a ton of water to flush the body, but it's usually going to be like a Coke because I want the sugar. Or yeah,
Water's such a
I'm not
responsible
really big on the
answer.
drink.
Such a responsible.
Yeah.
So we're
I know.
not like a gallon of tequila or
Right?
some
No.
beers, nothing
No.
like that.
I mean, if I'm at a post race and someone hands me like a beer, like I don't know how to order alcohol very well, but a lot, like if I'm out at a social event, I'll just be like, hey, I'll have what you're drinking, or I'll
There
have,
you go.
Nice.
what do you, yeah. So I'm
End
used
up
to
in
just
trouble
other
that
people
way.
buying.
All right.
Yeah, you do.
Well, we want to say
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on with us.
I did want to give one more
Oh,
shout
you're
out.
gonna give another shout
I
out?
want to say Chorus Club right here.
Oh yeah.
You got yours on?
Yeah,
I
there
got
we
mine on.
go.
Of course I do.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, look at all of us have 3 different colored bands. There's yellow, green. What do you
Yeah.
got? Is that the red?
I have
Orange?
a
Yeah,
military green. Yeah.
And what do you got? What model? You got the Apex Pro?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or is that the Vertex?
He's got
Apex
that
Pro.
Vertex.
Right now
Pro.
I'm wearing the Apex Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you,
Okay.
I actually
Well, right
even like
now.
the pace almost feels too light.
I know.
Like it's like I'm not wearing a watch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know. My daughter wears that because she does track and cross country, and she
Nice.
the battery went out, so I gave her the Apex. She's like, this is so heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for track athletes, it's way too heavy. The pace is perfect if you're on the track
sure.
for cross country.
Cool.
Yeah. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming here. I'm glad I finally know that your name is not Yellow Runner. That is actually you have
That I am
a legal
Sally.
name. Legal name. So if I run into you at an event, I won't be like, "Hey, Yella."
Oh,
Right,
I
yeah.
get it all the time.
All right.
People just say yellow.
Yeah.
So that's okay, but it's great to meet you guys,
Yeah.
and I
Too.
really appreciate you having me on.
For
So
sure.
Oh,
thank
it's gonna
you.
be fun. I think people will really enjoy this one. So thanks again.